Modern Warfare 4 is coming out in just a few months, and I see almost no hype for this game online at all. It is supposed to be the return to form for Call of Duty and set the tone for years to come, and yet there's not a single soul who actually cares. Not to mention, it has to compete with some of the biggest and most anticipated games ever. That is one of many reasons that I'm going to talk about today, and I'm going to tell you why Modern Warfare 4 is doomed. Modern Warfare 4 has been dealt a really tough hand so far. Not only is it releasing at an extremely low point for the franchise, and is expected to try to bring back tons of players. Not only does it have to compete with GTA 6, which is the most anticipated game of all time, which millions and millions of people will definitely be playing over it, but it also has to compete with another Call of Duty game with the Black Ops 1 and 2 ports. In fact, the Black Ops 1 and 2 ports have received so much more love than Modern Warfare 4 has that it's absurd. The tweet by Treyarch officially announcing the BO1 and 2 ports has more likes than the tweet announcing Modern Warfare 4, and it's not even close. The majority of the COD community is anticipating these Black Ops 1 and 2 ports far more than they are MW4. So regardless of how good this game is, it already has a really high chance of failure just based off the fact that there's so much going against it. Especially since it's cool to dislike COD now. Back in the day when COD was at its peak, everybody liked COD. It was cool to play Call of Duty. But now if you play Call of Duty, people clown on you and make fun of you, and rightfully so. With how bad some of these new Call of Duty games have been, there's no reason for people to not make fun of you for playing them. They just assume that every single one of the games is as bad as the last one they played, and they make fun of you because why would you play a game that bad? Even if some of the newer ones are actually quite a bit better than they think, it doesn't matter because they've had that bad experience. They're going to stay with that for a long time until one of these games finally breaks the cycle. Plus, with some of the leaks coming out about Modern Warfare 4, it seems like this game will likely be a disappointment to a lot of players. From what we've heard, this game is essentially a slightly better version of Modern Warfare 2 2022. Very prominent Call of Duty leaker Alex said, "Don't get your hopes up, MW4 is MW2 just a bit better." And I think the parts that are better is going to be movement-based. MW2 was very controversial for its movement. Players said they felt very slow, like you were walking in mud, it was not easily controllable, and compared to MW 2019, it just felt objectively worse. I think MW4 will have closer movement to MW19, but I think it will feel more like MW19 mixed with MW2, with a couple extra features like being able to climb up pipes and stuff, which seems very small and I doubt will have any real gameplay advantages or purposes really at all. And I don't think players are going to be happy with that. Players want something new, something refreshing. All the Call of Duty games for the past 7 years have felt exactly the same. Every single one of them feels like MW19 copy and pasted with just Warzone garbage infiltrating every single mode. The people are tired of it and they want a new experience that feels different and actually feels like you spent money on something new rather than just buying the same game again and again and again. The number one way they can do that is with changing the movement in a way that actually feels good. I'm not saying slow it down and make it feel clunky and horrible. If they make it feel good, players will appreciate it. And I think bringing back tac sprint is just not the way to go. Black Ops 7 is a really controversial game, but one thing that almost everyone has been praising recently is the Black Ops Classic modes. If you don't know what that is, essentially it is a Black Ops 7 mode in the multiplayer where you can play it and there's no advanced movement, so there's no sliding, no wall bouncing, nothing, and it's on Black Ops 1 and 2 maps only. So it really feels like you're going back into the past, playing those old games, and it's by far the most fun I've had in multiplayer since Black Ops 2. It's genuinely a great experience, and I think that for every Call of Duty that has some form of advanced movement, this mode needs to be a feature because it brings back so many players that aren't used to the advanced movement. They don't have time to master it. Maybe they just got home from work. They just want to sit back, relax, and play a game of COD, not have to sweat and try so hard to even get one kill. They can just relax, play the game, and have fun. That is the biggest fan base for Call of Duty, and I know people don't want to admit it, and people say that's not true. The biggest fan base is the people on Twitter, which is completely not true. That's a complete lie. The biggest fan base is the casual player. You need to appease them in some way. I'm not saying go full casual player. That will lead to a disaster. If the mode can just have a low skill floor but a high skill ceiling, that is what makes modes accessible to a lot of players and makes them replayable for all players. So this game definitely needs a Modern Warfare Classic playlist with no SBMM, no advanced movement, just classic boots on the ground gameplay where the most important thing is your aim. That's the foundation that made Call of Duty so good in the first place, and I think they need to return to that. This game's campaign does seem like it's going to be a step up from previous CODs, but that really isn't saying much because of how bad campaigns have gotten. If you were around for the old school days, Black Ops 1, Black Ops 2, the original Modern Warfare trilogy, the campaigns were some of the most memorable experiences in gaming history. They were all genuinely incredible, and I think that all started to go downhill when Call of Duty Ghosts dropped. Now, Call of Duty Ghosts campaign is very divisive. Some people love it and some people hate it, but objectively speaking, that is the game where it started to become a divisive mode and people were playing it less. Up until that point, the main selling point for Call of Duty was the campaign. The campaign set the framework for the entire game. It set the timeline, it set the weapons. Everything about the campaign was an integral piece of the game's identity. But after Call of Duty Ghosts, the campaign became less and less of a focal point. You have games like Black Ops 3, which are completely off the wall and one of the most hated campaigns ever. Then you get to games like Black Ops 4, where they completely removed the campaign and did not even have one at all. But then MW19 comes out, and one thing I think undoubtedly it did right was bring the campaign back, make it grounded, and bring it back to that original classic feel. Now, plenty of people have their gripes with the campaign in MW19, and those are totally justified. It has its problem. But I think it brought a huge piece of the community back to loving campaigns, giving them a fair chance, and playing them again. But just as fast as they brought everyone back, they almost immediately lost them with the MW2 campaign. And don't even get me started on the MW3 campaign. It only took like 3 hours to beat. It's just an overall horrible experience, terrible story. This new trilogy has not held a candle to the original trilogy in any way, and I think the new campaign looks promising. Essentially, if you don't know, the whole premise of the game is that it takes place during a war with South Korea and North Korea. They seem to be marketing this whole campaign as a Price versus Ghost story, which is really off character for Ghost, but that's a topic for another video entirely. But I think it would be a great move if they let you decide whose side you want to be on in this campaign. Back in some of the best campaigns, like in Black Ops Cold War and Black Ops 2, you actually had to make choices in the middle of missions that could change the entire outcome of the game. And they even had multiple different endings where you could pick a side, change the ending of your game. They need to have that in MW4. You need to be able to pick sides. Do you want to side with Captain Price, or do you want to side with Ghost? And then maybe one of those two dies, or you have to lock one of them up in jail, something like that, where we can pick a side. That would be awesome. And the campaign really needs to set the stage for the entire game. I don't want them to start releasing bundles that don't fit the game's identity at all. This game needs to feel like a Modern Warfare game through and through. Now, obviously, they're going to release bundles. It's just going to happen. As long as they fit the game's identity and they don't look super jarring, I think that they will be fine. Unfortunately for me, this game does not have a zombies mode at all, which is really sad. You guys probably know I am a big zombies fan. But they do have DMZ, which is basically an extraction shooter. Now, the first DMZ was popular. It did have a lot of people playing it, but it was really unfinished and it felt more like a test mode than a final product. This is supposed to be the final product of DMZ. This is supposed to be the grand return of the mode, and they've really been trying to hype it up as this great third mode. Now, do I think that this game should have some form of zombies mode? Yes. But do I think DMZ is gonna suck? Maybe. I'm not 100% sure. I think DMZ has a real chance to be a great mode. Extraction shooters are extremely popular these days. Games like Escape from Tarkov, like Ark Raiders, these are some of the most popular games in the world. And I think if Call of Duty can nail the extraction shooter format in DMZ, then it can boost the player count by hundreds of thousands of players if it's done properly. I also think they need to do a couple of free weekends for DMZ to let players really feel what the mode is like and decide if they want to buy the game or not. And some people may be thinking, well, hey, you haven't mentioned Warzone yet. What about Warzone? They have not even mentioned anything to do with Warzone, and I think that's such a good thing because Warzone has had such a downfall in recent years. It's actually ridiculous how irrelevant that mode has become. And I think it's getting to the point now to where Activision and Call of Duty need to cut ties from Warzone and make it its own separate experience, separate from Call of Duty entirely. Now, you guys might think that sounds crazy, but hear me out. The mode is already free to play, so they could just keep it free to play, add bundles to that specifically, and nothing really would change, and they'd still be able to make their money. If they did that, they would be able to remove COD HQ, which has plagued Call of Duty for years, and people have just gotten sick of it. Warzone has just gotten far too complicated. There's weapons from like 8 different games in there. It's just so much. People don't care anymore. They're not interested in Warzone. It's time for Call of Duty to cut ties with it, move on, and maybe DMZ could be the next big mode. But if they do find their next big mode, if they do find their next Warzone, they need to make sure they keep the gameplay elements of that mode in that mode. It can't leak out into the multiplayer. It can't leak out into the third mode. It has to stay confined within that mode itself. Because the biggest fault of Warzone was plaguing every other mode with its mechanics. If Warzone would have just stayed its own thing and stayed in its lane, then I think it would probably still be popular to this day. But since players couldn't play any other mode without experiencing some aspect of Warzone, they grew tired of it way quicker, and it's just over. And with GTA 6 releasing so close to MW4's release date, Modern Warfare better nail it and absolutely perfect everything about this game, because if they don't, the players are going to drop faster than they ever have before, and I think Call of Duty is going to be in real trouble if they don't. Not to mention, a lot of people are going to be playing on the Black Ops 1 and 2 ports and just completely ignoring MW4 altogether. MW4 has been perfectly set up to fail. Will it be able to prove everybody wrong and actually be a successful Call of Duty game? I don't know, but I want to hear your guys' thoughts on this game in the comments below, and I want to hear if you guys think I should start making more Call of Duty content that's not about zombies. I'm obviously going to stay with zombies forever, but should I start to branch out a little bit? Let me know. But if you do want to hear some stuff about zombies, then you can watch my review of Kawakujo, the brand new map, and why it should have been the perfect map, but isn't. If you want to see that, you can click on this video on screen right here. Thank you guys for watching.